What's up YouTube, Mr. Lamacy here, and today we're going to be reviewing Diablo 2, my favorite ARPG of all time. Now, I did a review of this for Diablo 4. Here we can see how I gave different scores for the different pieces, campaign playthrough, items, action, RPG, blah blah blah, just all the different stuff that existed. Overall, we came out with a final rating of 6.15. I think that is generous enough, but also, you know, it fits where I thought Diablo 4 was. It was a fine game, 6.15, nothing that I would play again, very much, right? Now, a lot of people asked me to do this for Diablo 2. That was a bit ago. But I decided, you know what, I'll eventually do this for Diablo 2 here. And I think one thing that we're going to find is, of course, this is not going to end up as a 10 out of 10 game. If you ask me overall to just rate the game, I'll say, oh, it's 10 out of 10. But when I actually go in and look at each system individually and specifically, I'm definitely able to find places where I can see improvements and where I think, oh yeah, this could, this is outdated. This would be better like this. This is just not a great system overall. So let's go ahead and do this. I wonder if there's a way that I can set a hotkey for this. All right. Music. We'll just start. Campaign story. I can't rate because I don't really know enough about lore. I don't do lore very much. But I think the campaign story is pretty good. But whatever. We'll leave that part out. Music. I give it a 10. I say there are too many bangers to note. Atmospheric wise, it is just so solid. I think you're crazy to not give it a 9 out of 10 at least. For me, though, the music just always feels great. It keeps you in the world of Diablo 2, in the game. It helps immerse you, and I think it's just perfect for me. So I have absolutely nothing I would change there. Starting out strong. Campaign playthrough, I'm also going to give this a 10. Many people have not actually really played through the campaign. They've kind of played through, but then they got rushed. They had somebody help it, all this stuff. But if you actually just play through this campaign, it is amazing. Like I say, I have done this thousands of times. I'll do it thousands more. It is super fun. The way that they push you through the game and it just goes it's a 10 for me. That's it. I also have a weighting right here. Overall, this is just the way that I weight it to give more, weight and value to certain things. For instance, the campaign playthrough, I give more value to than the music. And I give itemization even more importance, because if a game has good music, good campaign playthrough, but terrible itemization, it's going to be worse, in my opinion. Itemization. You might think it's a 10, but I actually gave it a 9 here. And I think you could rate it slightly lower or slightly higher. It has everything in it, but some of the later patch pieces really hurt it, right? We see this with some of the rune words. There's some of the useless items. There's some of the failing physical weapons, right? Physical doesn't really keep up as much since they increased the health of all the mobs, but didn't increase the damage on the items. And then, of course, right, with the rune words, Enigma, Spirit, Grief, those sorts of things just do a little bit too much, unfortunately. Okay, you want me to go a little bit zoomed out? There we go. That's maybe better right there. So that really hurts it, but the affixes are amazing. The fact that you use and are interested in white items, socketed items. You love even finding a damaged bill, maybe, because you're going to go, whatever. Just all of that. Magic items, rare items, unique items, set items. There's just so many items that you're interested in and that are fun to pick up. And there's nothing better than finding a rare, diadem and just being like, what am I going to get? On top of that, items being used by all the different characters allow you to create these different fun builds. It's very good. I just have to definitely say it slightly fell off in those last patches there because of some of those rune words and the physical weapons. action overall, the action and action RPG, I give a 9 as well. I feel like the boss fights are a little bit weak. That we do have bosses down below, so that's where more of that rating is. But I think the variance that you get in fighting for different builds and classes is great. Something that I really love about Diablo 2 that suffers, in my opinion, in modern games is that in a lot of modern games, all the characters just end up feeling the same, right? It's like, well, every character needs to have AoE and be able to clear these maps or clear these zones as fast as possible and all of this stuff. And everybody ends up just being somebody who zooms around and blows up all the maps or kills the monsters and all the AoE and all of that. Even for many mods in Diablo 2, it's a similar idea where they start to get that idea in it. And that's something I think Diablo actually does a really great job of, or did, is you have this variance. You have the single target that stuns and is just really strong there. You have the builds that are freezing stuff and keeping it slower there. You have the high damage, even like your Amazon, your Charge Strike, Lightning Fury Amazon. It's like she wants big crowds of monsters for the big explosions of that. But if there's just a couple monsters around there, her Lightning Fury falls off a lot. So just when you play the different classes, you really feel the different course of action and the value that brings. And that's something that I really love. Do I think melee characters need to be a little bit improved? Sure. I think there's some issues with the formula for chance to hit and all of that. But I still really like how they play. If they could hit a little bit more, I think it'd be perfect. I don't think they need all the AoE and all of that. I think they're still in a great position. They just need to be able to hit more. Now, the RPG section of ARPG, I give a 6.75. I think this is a tough one. I think you could rate it higher or lower depending how you feel that is. Overall, there's not a lot of choices that you're really making in the game. So that part, I think, really is the fall off of this. It doesn't have a lot of role playing in that capacity. That being said, I think the immersion and the connection to your character is fantastic. And I think back to when I was a kid, me and my friend were playing, and his younger brother, we were probably 14, 13 at the time. His younger brother was 6 or 7. And we were playing, his younger brother wanted to play, and he was like, "Get off! I need to play! My barbarian needs me!" And that quote is stuck in my mind forever. It was just so funny. But he felt that connection to his character, and I think about that whenever I think about the immersion RPG and just that piece of the game. It's just, my barbarian needs me. And I get it, because he does, So I think it could be higher, but I also feel it's immersive, but there's not really a lot of role playing in that capacity. Builds, I'm giving an 8. I think, again, it probably was a little higher, but I think there's some issues. I think you have stuff like Mosaic Assassin, which just way too good and broken now. I do think overall there's good variance. Builds have different strength and fun. You have things like your bear source or your demon crossbow, sorceress there, demon machine. You have just even variance within the characters. Your paladin playing the hammers versus playing smite versus playing fist of heaven versus playing vengeance and zeal. There's a lot of variance across all of that. So I think builds, I would actually even give builds an 8.5. I'm going to update it. I think it gets a little bit more. I just think there are some of those top builds that are a little bit ruining in some capacity. But overall, pretty decent. There's some balance issues and some stuff. But yeah, I think 8.5 is pretty decent. Completionism, I give a 10. The Holy Grail, I think Terror Zones actually pushed this up to a 10. I think it was maybe an 8.5 to a 9 because the 99 grind really sucked. But now with Terror Zones, you can actually go around and kill all these different zones and go through the game again. And it's amazing. You have the GG items you can look for in PvP. I think there's just so much stuff along the way, and then so many things. Again, how many people have tried to complete a Holy Grail now? All of that is just really fantastic. So I give completionism a 10. I think it makes me really, it's something that's kept me in the game again for all these hours. Cinematics, I give a 10. Like every Blizzard game, I feel like it's a 10 in cinematics for me. I'm just always in awe. I can still remember so many of the cinematics to this day. They're just absolutely beautiful. That team has never fallen off. D3's cinematics, D4 cinematics, they're all great, but D2 had really good ones. And D2R, with the improvement on them, they just look even better. PvP, I give a 6.5. It is solid, but it's definitely lacking some balance. There's a lot of rules that you have to put in. Okay, this character can't do this versus this character. No, you can't use, the health potions or the rejuve potions, obviously. You can't have this. There's a lot of ways you have to adjust PvP to make it work. But once you do that, you can definitely have fun. I do enjoy the fun, but the main game isn't about PvP, but it doesn't really have real support. There's not even like a PvP zone or anything. It's just kind of something they tacked on. They were like, hey, you know what? We'll let people go kill each other. And that's how that ended up. So, I think if there was a little bit more dedicated time and effort towards balancing some pieces towards PvP, it'd be really nice. But 6.5 overall for that. Quality of life, I'm giving a 5. I think it is lacking. Yes, we have things like the shared stash, but we have limited stash space, limited characters online, a lack of loot filters, etc. Yes, they added some nice hotkeys in D2R. They've definitely improved some pieces, but I think overall the quality of life is still lacking there. Plus, of course, we don't have TCP/IP, and that, which is sad to me. So I give it a 5. I think that's even maybe generous. Overall UI, I give a 7.5. The chat being broken is really my main issue with overall UI. I absolutely hate the chat in D2 Resurrected. Like LOD, chat was totally fine until it eventually broke as well. But for a long time, chat was totally fine there. You had the chat in the game. It wasn't like getting in the way. It wasn't popping up in your, single player games and stuff. It was just that. And it was very easy to open and talk through and all this. But in D2R, it's just so annoying. And now that you're always connected to the internet with it, I'll be playing in single player and then I'll get spam bots like posting into my single player chats. It's awful. It doesn't work half the time. It's just messy. I do not like it. And I just kind of miss the old simple chat. /F_L, having your friends list, /F_M, messaging all, whatever. Just like having the basic simplicity. Old chat was better. So chat really annoys me and drops off a couple points there. Ease of access, I'm giving a 5. I think it could be higher and could be lower. And there's various reasons. Diablo 2 is so simple your mama can play it. That was the thought that Brevik said he had when he made the game. He said, I want the game to be simple. You load it up, you click a character, you type a name in, and you're off and you're playing. And I think that's very true. And I think that is how you can easily play Diablo 2. Anybody, my mom, can pick it up, figure out how to make a character, run out to the Bloodmoor and start hitting things. I think it's great. It's not filled with tons of currencies and confusing systems. I'm not going to the altar of Zor and getting the 5 currencies that the Zorian drops and then taking those to so and converting them into the remnants of the dead, and then I have 1,000 remnants of the dead, and I can buy a key from the underground and take the keys. And it's just like, so many of these new games have so many stupid systems and currencies and things all across everywhere, and it's like, what the heck is all of this? D2 doesn't have that, and I love it. But and so that's why I'm like, I want to give a high value to it. Because even like Ubers, it's like, you get the keys, you get the organs, and then they combine. It's like very simple, and they're not even like all this stuff. Yes, you have like your Herodic staff and stuff, but it's even very easily explained and very simple. They're just, they tell you, get the amulet, get the staff, cube them together. It's perfect. So I want to give it high values there. But the game also lacks a lot of help. Nobody knows what rune words are. It's very easy to brick a character. Nobody knows what cube recipes are. All of these things you don't know. Like, you can learn a couple cube recipes, I guess, talking, if you listen to the lore. But none of that exists within the game. You have to go to third party and read it all there and do all of this. And so I think for ease there, I have to give it a lower value. But I don't know if I'd give a lot of games high ease of access, to be honest, just because they're so confusing in all their different ways, even if they're like easy games, Monster design, I give a 10. I'm not sure I have found a game that does monster design better than Diablo 2. And playing so many of these modern ARPGs just like reminds me every day how much better Diablo 2's monsters are. When I compare a doll to a soul, to a fallen, to a zombie, to a quill rat, to a death knight, to a obsidian knight, to the maulers, to whatever, they are all so unique. It is amazing how many different unique monsters they were able to put into this game that so many games have failed to do. In like the newer games, it's like all the monsters have a different graphic, but they all have the same AI. They all do the same kind of things, whatever it is. Diablo 2, just like, you know when you run up on a pack of souls, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. Like your fear of the different monsters and how they interact and everything. It is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing, the different design they have. Again, I'm like blown away and I'm saddened at the same time that so many games fail at creating so many different monsters. So many monsters just feel the same in new games, and it kills me. So 10 out of 10 right there for sure. Endgame, I give an 8. The biggest reason is Endgame did not exist at the time. This could almost be an NA, but it wasn't around back then. But the beauty of the thing is, even though there was zero endgame really built in, they added like Ubers and, a little bit here and there. They have so much, just like the game is so fun to play that it's replayable in so many ways. Or you want to grind to 99, or you want to build your character out for this PvP, or you want to do, get that really cool rune word. Whatever it is, like, you will continue playing afterwards and grinding through, and it's just fantastic. I think they did a fabulous job for the time, because the game is so well made that you create your own end game. So I give it an 8 there. Maybe that's generous. Maybe it should just be not applicable. I don't know, but that's my feelings. Bosses, I give a 5. And it's really two-sided here. The feeling of the bosses are amazing. When you walk in and Dariel comes down there, or you step in and Duriel, you're suddenly trapped in this tight little cave with Duriel. Diablo in the Chaos Sanctuary. Like, the feeling is amazing. Not even death can save you from me. Just absolutely gorgeous. But the mechanics of the fights, the AI, it's outdated. They're not really that fun of fights. They're pretty simple and basic. And yeah, like when I go and play Path of Exile and go through those boss fights, not all of them, but a lot of the boss fights there, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like so much better, so many better boss fights that can exist. And the AI on them and how they move and what they require you to do. There's a lot better that can exist with it. So I think 5 is a good spot. Spells, I give a 9.5. There are some slight balance issues here and there. I'm going to move my camera up. Some slight balance issues here and there, but the look and feel of the spells is amazing. And they just fit so much better with the game, which is something that, I look at like Diablo 4, some of those spells, they don't fit in the environment. They don't mesh with the environment as well. Diablo 2, they mesh super well. They feel like they all belong there. And Diablo 2 Resurrected did a fantastic job with them. They improved so many of them. I'm blown away. Great job by that team there. Social, I'm going to give a 3.5. Maybe that's a little low, I don't know. But the busted chat, again, really hurt social a lot. It's hard to socialize and talk with people when the chat in game doesn't always work, when the chat's filled with spam bots in the lobbies, when the lobbies aren't even as great as they used to be because now it's all like sectioned off in a poor way and whatever. And just the lobby overall, I think, could use more help as well. I think there's a lot that could be done to make the game a better social experience. It's not great. But with all that being said, you can definitely still feel the community, and I do feel like there is some social aspects that you can have where you can get with a group, talk with them, have fun, sometimes have fun in the public lobbies a little bit here and there. But it's just not what it used to be with all of that. It used to be better for social, but even then it still needed more help. Now, party play, I'm going to go ahead and give a 9.5. I think, one, the fact that you could play with 8 people parties, and you can't do that nowadays in all these games. All these games nowadays are like four people max. I love that you could play with 8 different people and have just like such a great time, and it wasn't so blow up everything all over the screen all the time that you couldn't see anything. Like, there was still some way you could see it. It was great there. There's lots of synergies. You can do lots of silly things, like we all have to be, a Boazon with a crossbow, or we all have to do whatever. It's an 8-player party. You're the 8th person. It's just fun. Playing with other people is fun. Open trade is fun. PvP has its fun. Again, we had PvP up above, but it's still there and it has its fun. I think party play is very high in this game. Damage scaling, I give an 8. I think the difficulty of the game grows extremely well. Normal to nightmare to hell. You definitely feel the growth of it. You feel yourself getting stronger, but the world getting stronger as well. I think it's very solid. The biggest issue that we drop off some of it is physical characters just have a hard time in this game. Plain and simple, a lot of physical characters are just not great. And they struggle. Again, this comes because they increase the health of the monsters, but they did not increase the damage of the weapons to match. And so they're just lacking damage, and that really hurts them. Monetization, it's a 10 out of 10. You buy the game and you get the game, and that's it. Plain and simple. Cosmetics, I give a 9. The biggest reason I give this a 9 is because some items actually look better in LOD. I think D2R actually made some of the items and cosmetics look a little bit worse. That being said, generally a cooler looking character is a better character. You don't have people running around looking godly because they paid for it and all of that. That's just annoying to me personally. You can do lots of fun things, like I've done full blue paladin, purple sorceress. I made like the Power Ranger paladins before. It's lots of fun. And it fits the game. There's also not people running around with rainbow wings on their backs and all sorts of craziness that don't fit. It all feels like it fits within Diablo 2 and the world. I don't personally like transmog, but some people are like, oh, I wish it had transmog. That's not my kind of thing, but I can understand it. Graphics overall, I give a 10. I think it's beautiful. I think it looks better than Diablo 4. I think it looks better than most games nowadays. Even the old graphics and the look of the old graphics, I think were just better. They're just very artsy. They're very beautiful. I'm all for it. I just think, man, Diablo 2's look is just high quality, high class. It's a 10 for me. Speaking of 10s, entertainment is also a 10 for me. It's fun to play, replay. I can't personally give it anything under a 10 while having over 32,000 hours in this game. I just can't. That just wouldn't even make any sense whatsoever. I guess it's like those people on, some could. They have like Steam and it's like 7,000 hours in this game and they downvote it and they're like, this game's terrible. I just can't support it. It's just not that fun. You're like, what are you doing with your life? You must hate yourself. But that's not me with Diablo 2. It's just too much fun to play. Plain and simple. I just love it. Performance, I give it an 8 out of 10. It actually was a little better. I mean, rubber banding online was still an issue, but load screens in D2R I think are a big hurt. And then also the slight delay now in single player. There's like a frame here and there sometimes that it kind of lags and delays. I've had my character die in single player even though I had paused and they still had life. So D2R having to be on top of it, on top of the old game, has added a little bit of extra load, and it's caused a slight performance drop. Resource management, I have a 6.5. I think potions and resources overall feel okay. They're not perfect. Having to potion chug a lot of times I think can be a little bit annoying. But, it's not a bad system. I think Lifesteal Mana Steal isn't super great for a lot of the playthrough of the game because item issues. Again, items don't do enough damage now, so that's causing issues there. But overall, I still think it's better than the spender generator stuff. I hate builder spender. I think it's such an annoying system. So I think it's better than that, but I think, you know what, it's not perfect. And then you even have things like insight and stuff that's just like too good and just ruins. Okay, now you just don't need any resource management if you have that. So I think it's a 6.5. Crafting in this game, I give a 5. A lot of that comes from the potential. There's plenty of crafting potential. The recipes could be improved. It's like crafting, caster amulets and blood rings and blood gloves and blood belts and stuff when you're on a playthrough or when you're at the end can be really fun. And even doing stuff like rerolling grand charms or crafting a prismatic amulet or a coral ring, whatever stuff. Many of you guys don't do it because you're not playing through the game. But if you're playing through the game, there's a lot of useful things there. But there's also a lot that just never gets used, never gets touched. And there's too many duds overall. You can craft hundreds and hundreds, which takes forever to get all the materials, and just end up with all duds, and it's just not worth anything. And so it really hurts. And lastly, systems meshing, I give a 9. Overall, this is like all of these systems above, plus the different mechanics and just how they work together. How do items and monsters and difficulty and balance and all of these pieces mesh together? Does it feel like they work well? Does it feel like they're part of the same world? I give it a 9. overall, I think there's, some issues here and there. Again, the biggest issue still for me would be like physical characters and chance to hit and a little bit of that stuff not working as well with monsters because they kind of got separated there. But overall, I think it works together really well. So, what does this give us on an overall rating of the game? An 8.34. And I think that is, it feels low, but I think when you really bring in all the different aspects, it's a pretty good number. And this is also something I think people need to think about and remember when rating games and thinking about games is it's so easy to say, oh, that's 10 out of 10, right? Oh, game reporter, game, blah, blah, blah. This person, they say this is 10 out of 10, best game ever, all of this stuff. It's very easy to throw that stuff. But an 8.34, I think, is actually a really solid rating. I would say anything over an 8 is like a very high rating when you're actually considering all of the factors that exist. At the same time, I think if Blizzard dedicated some developers to D2R and did stuff like improved the chat, fixed the chat, improved the lobby, maybe gave some PvP balancing, did some adjustments to the UI, brought in some, some recipe stuff to Kane. Okay, you can go to Kane and he'll tell you what the cube recipes are. If they brought in some quality of life with loot filter and with more stashes, more characters, right? Like and changed up some crafting recipes. All the stuff that I said right there wasn't crazy. None of that was like they need to do this whole game with this giant shift and they have to change potion system and all of that. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm saying if they just gave some basic things there, this rating would be over a 9 easily. Easily it would be over a 9. But I think if you really get to, this factual rating of all these different pieces, it's I think this is a pretty fair score. Now, I think you can weight things even higher. I think some people would be like, itemization should be an 8. Graphics should be a 1 because I don't care about graphics overall. I think that's totally fair. This is kind of my weightings, but also weightings that I'm trying to keep pretty fair because I agree. For me, itemization is like an 8 in its weighting. It should be super high. And campaign playthrough is probably like a 4 for me. And, but I'm trying to keep stuff in mind for people and give, again, a more general review as opposed to one that's super personal just to me. Because if I think you could say, how are you playing 32,000 hours of a game? You rate 8.34. But I say, you know what? If I'm actually going through, itemization is an 8, probably. Actions probably a 5. Builds is probably a 3. Completionism probably a 3. Cinematics I don't care. PvP can stay down there. Ease of access I wouldn't care. Monster design I would say is a 5 for me personally. Endgame I don't care near as much. Spells I think would go to a 4. Bosses probably goes up to a 2 slightly. Party play goes to a 4. Easily you can see already just from some very basic ways, I've increased it to an 8.53 just by adjusting a few values that I think would be slightly more of why I think the game fits so much better and is something that I love so much more. But this is my ratings. This is how I rate the game and my feelings and thoughts. Again, this is, I think, a pretty factual look at it without trying to be too personally biased in it completely. And I think it gets a very solid 8.34. And again, like I said, there's so many easy places that this game could bump up to like a 9 with just some basic love from Blizzard in improving their chat, in adding some quality of life, in, you know, adjusting, fixing. Oh my God, if they fixed like melee, you know, characters a little bit and that chance to hit calculation. Some basic stuff like that has this game at over a 9, which is insane. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you have some similar thoughts. I'd love to hear if you guys think differently on these ratings here, where you think I'm way off, if I am. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace, everybody.